Hey everybody, welcome back to another Horn Woodworks video. Today I'm going to show you how to make this wooden barbecue scraper. It's just made out of 1x4 pine that you can buy at any of your big box stores, Home Depot, Home Hardware, any place like that. Ran into a few problems. The jigsaw got away from me when I was cutting it out. I'm going to show you how to fix it. If that happens to you, the jigsaw is one of those tools that takes a lot of practice to get good at, and I'm still not good at it. Besides that though, it all went pretty good. Took about an hour and a half to fully complete it. For you it may take longer, but turned out pretty good all in all. Hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more to come in the future. Alright, so here's a close look at our pine that we'll be using for today. It's just 1x4 hobby pine. Like I said, you can buy it at any of your local big box stores, Home Depot, Home Hardware, Rona, Lowe's, whatever you guys have near you. Don't bother spending the extra money for clear. It's just a barbecue scraper. If there's a couple knots in it, it's not a big deal. Here are the tools you'll need to be using for today: tape measure, pencil. You can use a normal pencil, or I'm quite fond of the grafting pencils there. You got a random orbit sander and a jigsaw. The random orbit sander is kind of a luxury. You can just hand sand it all. Drill bits, and a shoelace if you want to put a shoelace on to hang it up. If not, you can just set it down inside your barbecue or inside your house. So here I'm going to cut it to rough length. Rough length just means you're leaving extra in case of any knots that pop out or anything like that. The final finished length on this barbecue scraper is 19¼ inches, so I'm going to oversize it by about 1 or 2 inches. And there's a knot that I got to take out here, so I'm going to cut past the knot and then cut that knot out afterwards. I just find that a little bit easier to do. And if your pine is really knotty, you can just kind of lay it into the center of the barbecue scraper as well. And that way it doesn't pop out when you go to cut your miter at the end. Alright, so we got it cut to rough length. Now I'm going to probably cut it to finish length just because I know what I have to cut out here, which is the knot that is going to lie right in the middle of the handle, which I don't want. So we're going to cut that out. Alright, now that we have it cut to finished length, it's time to lay out our design. And for my design, I had an old barbecue scraper that I already liked. I made a while ago. It's time to freshen it up again. So we're going to just trace that one. It's all personal preference how you like your handle. You can make the end of it whatever shape you want. I really like this shape. If you guys want a more detailed video of how to lay out a handle, I'll be doing a cutting board video in the future, and in there I will show you step by step how to lay out a handle and all that stuff the right way. This is the lazy way to do it, which is just trace something you already had before that you like the shape of. And since it is a barbecue scraper, I'm not really worried about it being perfectly centered. That's just all personal preference. So here you can see the design that I went with. It's a very simple design. Alright, here I am cutting it out on the jigsaw. Jigsaw, like I said, is one of those tools that's super easy to mess up with. You got to make sure it's perfectly straight up and down, or you get a little bit of a bevel to your cuts, and it's really a pain in the butt to use. It takes a lot of practice to get good at, and I am still really not the greatest with it. But that's why you make stuff like this. It's to practice. You know, you don't get better unless you practice and learn. Right here I had to do the rest of it freehand, and you'll see after this shot I messed it up. Right at the very end it tipped on me, and then it took off. Let's get a close up here in a second. Alright, so right here you can see how it tipped in and then took out a big chunk there that I didn't really want taken out. So how we're going to fix that is when we go do our sanding, we're going to just sand extra right there and then try to match it as best you can on the other side. Pine is super easy to hide your crimes. If this was walnut or especially oak, something really hard, you're going to have to recut it and reshape it back down a little bit undersized of what you originally wanted. So here we're going to cut the 45-degree miter, on the end. It's just so that it runs better on the barbecue. Obviously, you know, big blocky end is not going to burn very well. Like I said, you can do that all with a miter box. You don't need a miter saw. Alright, here, time to sand. All in all, this sanding with the random orbit took about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes to do. I sped it up, obviously, so that this video isn't 6 years long. But it doesn't take very much. Like I said, you can hand sand this. It'd probably take you about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to do. Here I am hand sanding, however, the edges of the barbecue scraper just to round it over because they're really sharp. If you have a router, you can do it with a router, but I'm trying to show that you don't need a lot of tools to do this project. There we go, seeing how it feels in the hand. Alright, time to brand it. If you don't have a brand, obviously you don't brand it, but for me, I have a brand, so all we're going to do is heat it up with a torch here. And I'll show you afterwards the difference between once you get it up to temperature and when it's still a little too cold. It's really hard to judge, especially with like a brass or something like that, where you're doing it by hand. You're just kind of watching the color and waiting for it to get to the right color. It's about the best way I can describe it. It's just one of those things you have to practice. Alright, here we go, time to brand. Here I'm trying to position myself so I'm most stable, as you get one shot and one shot only at this. Once it's on, it's on. Nice little smoke ring there at the end. Alright, so that's what it looks like when it's too cold. You can see it kind of sort of worked, didn't really. And there, that's when it's perfect. And it turned out really good on this barbecue scraper. Okay, here I'm laying out the center of the pommel, just so it looks right when you have the hole in there. If it's off to one side, even by 1/16 of an inch, you are going to see it. So this is where you really have to be accurate, and you see I'm using the grafting pencil there just because it's a very fine lead, very thin. You can get a very precise mark on it. And this is a lesson learned for me too. I'm using a Forstner bit set that we just bought. This is a 1/4 inch Forstner bit, and it was a real pain in the butt to drill. Usually Forstner bits are really good at, they just hog out wood, but with it being so small, it had a really hard time clearing the chips. So I would recommend just, you know, normal either broad point or even a chisel point drill bit. I think it would work a lot better for this. I was actually really surprised that the Forstner bit didn't work that well. And then now I'm just going to sand up the backside, the blowout. You can see when I was drilling it, I moved it onto the plywood just so that it had a little bit of a sacrificial piece behind it. It helps prevent blowout. Alright, here I'm going to show you how to tie a square knot, just because in the video I had to do it right in front of my face. So all you do is keep whatever line is on top. So if you go left over right, you need to go right over left afterwards. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then you know you got it right when it can move freely like that. If not, you just got to do the exact opposite of what you just did. Alright, there we go. Square knot, reef knot, whatever you want to call it, is tied. And the reason we do that, it just kind of looks the nicest. You can tie it whatever way you want. You can throw 6 granny knots on there if you want to, but it just looks more professional when you get a nice single knot. Alright, this is an old barbecue scraper that this one's replacing. You can see this is about after 3 years of use. You get nice grooves burnt into it, and really after about 2 uses, it's going to be working really good. I would recommend burning the grooves in before you want to use it the first time though, because it can be really frustrating to try to get it clean when it's just a bare barbecue scraper. Alright, thank you for watching this video of Horn Woodworks. I hope you learned something. Any questions, comments, funny stories, you can leave them down below. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. Open to constructive criticism, as always. Thank you, appreciate you watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to. No pressure. Have a nice day.